Inside the Birds is back. Hello, everybody. It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan with part two of our two-part podcast series that started during the bye week and now extends toward this week, where we kind of take a look at the Eagles' bird's eye view, no pun intended. We went through the offense in the last podcast. I thought we got very good reception.
It was a long one.
It was long, and there was a lot to talk about. So everybody should check it out if they have not had a chance to yet. And we will do defense on this podcast, taking a bird's eye view of everything that's going on and what's to be expected going forward. So we didn't have our pregame show. Obviously, there was no game, so that was a nice little rest for Adam, myself, Greg Cosell, and Trey Thomas.
Yeah, Sunday was great, man. I got to tell you.
It was nice, right?
Watching the red zone and the craziness of the 4 o'clock games. It was mind-boggling. Boy, did I call the Cardinals game wrong. I thought they'd blow out the Dolphins. I got that one wrong. I give Tua credit. He played way better than he did in his first game. It was just it was good. And Dallas, I couldn't believe it. They almost pulled it off. I mean, Gail Gilbert's son. I'm old enough to remember Gail Gilbert. And, Garrett's dad, who was a backup quarterback for the Seahawks and the Bills in the early 90s and late 80s. Yeah. So. And then the Raider game, which went down to the last play, and I thought for sure, I don't know if you saw it, that Herbert did it again. I thought the kid, you always know the mark of a really talented quarterback when he makes guys you've never heard of be better players. Donald Parham Jr., like, who are these guys? 3 catches, 3 touchdowns he would have had in his career. But anyway.
No, it was a crazy day. And, like you were talking about Dallas and the kid Gilbert, and they kept talking on the broadcast. It was Tony Romo and Nance, and they kept mentioning, as they had about a minute left to try to go 81 yards, that Gilbert, it was the son of Gail Gilbert, as you said, who was also the quarterback for, was it Cal during the famous Stanford Cal game with the band and everything like that.
Yeah.
So they're talking about it, and then this guy starts to rally the game, but no, the Cowboys were not going to come back and win that. Before we do break down, actually, I want to talk a little bit about NFC East action, just real quick, Adam. But before, I want to remind people, again, we will be back at the Goose Island Brewhouse this Sunday. It's a 1 o'clock game against the Giants, and that's all of a sudden a different kind of looking game after what the Giants did on Sunday as well. And really the last 2 weeks they've been playing a lot better. So we'll have a lot to break down from 10 a.m. till noon. Myself, Adam, Greg Cosell, and Trey Thomas. And if you haven't caught it yet, check out our interview with Todd Harriman's that has been on YouTube and our podcast platform. It was one of our better ones with Todd, and Todd's always really good. But we really got into the nitty-gritty of offensive line technique, what the Eagles are taught, why they're taught that way, and who should play what position now that they're getting healthier. And a big question that we'll have to deal with for this offensive line, Adam, is when does Isaac Seumalo come back? We didn't really touch on him much in the last podcast because it's not really been out there.
No,
I think other than the knee. So,
no,
it's been a long time now.
Yeah, I know it's a severe knee sprain. I don't know which ligament was impacted. Mm-hmm. We first reported what the hell was it last week that Sanders would be back in week 10, and Alshon, I hesitated to say it because every time I think he's back, I'm wrong. But yeah, I was told that the Eagles expect him to be back in week 10. I don't know how many snaps he can handle. We'll get into that in today's Monday morning as you drive in. So that's good. They're expecting Sanders to play, and they're expecting Alshon to play. So they're getting healthier. You mentioned Seumalo. They're going to get him back, hopefully by week 11, 12, 13, that area. But other than that, they're a fairly healthy team. Ertz, week 11 by rules, the earliest he could come back. I was told at the time of the injury, it was very similar to a Christian McCaffrey's, same area on his ankle McCaffrey had, and McCaffrey missed a lot of weeks. It's Goddard's ball now, man. He looked great in the game against Dallas in terms of blocking. Now it's about getting him more involved in the pass game. Yeah. So things are looking up for the football team, and as you said, Geoff, the Giants they're going to the MetLife Stadium. That will not be easy. The Giants are super competitive right now. They really handled Washington on Sunday, and their defense is no joke, man. They're playing good football.
Yeah, it was an interesting game. I don't know if they handled him for the first half, and then Alex Smith, who has been his comeback has been absolutely courageous. was pretty damn good there until it caught up with him and he threw a pick. But it was looking like it was going to be a giant blowout, and then obviously Washington comes back. But this, I guess, when you look at NFC East action this weekend, it's all positive for the Eagles. You know, they beat Washington beat them, but now Washington has lost. They beat the Giants, right? The Eagles did beat the Giants, and they'll play them again. Dallas, they beat Dallas. Dallas lost. So it helps them kind of start to separate a little bit, even though you got to play these guys, most of them, all of them, a second time. But it does set up, I think, what's going to be an interesting game Sunday against the Giants at MetLife because, as you just mentioned, the Giants playing a lot better. Could have won that game against Tampa Bay, gave it away at the end, didn't get the 2-point conversion. But then this time they hold on. They're definitely getting better. That's the key.
And they should have. They outplayed the Eagles in Philly. You know, that's the thing. So that I look forward to that game. I look for that game on Sunday, and being at Goose Island Brew House. They're fantastic. What a view, by the way. What a view that we have. We appreciate people go. Hopefully, it looks like the early calls. The weather should be clear, so we hope to see people there. And obviously, if you can't make it, you can watch it on YouTube. You could watch it on Twitter, and you can watch it on Facebook. And folks, we've linked it on our Twitter, so you could see our last show and just get if you haven't seen it, you can get an idea of just kind of how the show goes. And the good thing is there aren't a lot of commercial breaks. It's just all in. There's no fluff. It's information. It's sure there's banter and we laugh a little bit, but we're pretty serious about it, and we appreciate the traffic numbers have been phenomenal. We really appreciate the support.
Yeah, definitely. Let's start to get into breaking down the defense. Like I said, we did the offense. Look back on 6 weeks, but also previewed what's to come, and we're going to do the same on the defense. Let me remind you guys always to check out PHLSportsNation.com, covering all 4 Philly teams like nobody else does. They are enhancing the fan experience with their coverage. They are for the fan, by the fan. So if you just enjoy reading fellow fans and how they feel about certain teams, go check them out, PHLSportsNation.com. Look for them on Twitter at PHL Sports Nation. And we'll pause right now for a quick word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. All right, Adam. I think the big thing as we get into the Eagles defense, right, is that we have, unlike the offense where we're still waiting to see, I think, all the assistant coaches, some of the principles, some of the philosophies integrated more into the offense. Yeah. We've seen that with the defense. And the weird thing is it's not always giving them great results, but we have seen Darius Slay trail other great wide receivers. Right. And we have seen Jim blitz a little bit more and a little bit deception. I mean, it depends what game we're talking about, but he's done a little bit more of that. I'm going to come from this direction or that direction, but he's not like a different guy. He's just done
no. It's the same. It's the same front. It's a wide 9. Pre-snap, a little bit more disguise, very little. It's not going to change. The guy coaches the way he coaches. He expects 4-man pressure. Get up front. I don't blitz. This is the way I learned it as a coach from Jim Washburn. Guys who run the wide 9 they just don't blitz. That's the way it is. So you just have to accept it. Though his selective blitzes though are pretty good, Geoff. And I think that's what you were talking about. When he does it for a reason, and he does it usually with good timing.
Yeah, if you remember, go back to last year, and I think even the year before, the Eagles were one of the worst blitzing team. Not just fewest, but whenever they did blitz, they would get carved apart. And some of that was obviously personnel, and then some of that was predictability, as we've talked about. I do think having Slay has helped him be less or even if he's more predictable, it's helped him at least not get beat over the top. The Eagles have very rarely gotten beaten over the top this year, and that was something that you could count on 2 or 3 times a game last year. So that part of it we've seen different. As you go forward, though, what do you want to see more of from Jim?
All right, so let's start up front, as it always does with good teams. You start with the defensive line. I love the rotation of Barnett, Graham, Sweat, and Curry at DN. Avery, he's got that sprained elbow. I'm told it's a UCL sprain, so he won't be back for a while. But I'm told they do expect him back for the end of the season. So if they make the playoffs, he'll be available. We know about the 3-man. It's now really a 3-man rotation at D tackle with Cox, Hargrave, and Jackson. So it's a 7-man D line. They all play. They all have their roles. So what could we see that's different? We know that the last few games, that D line has dominated. I mean, they've been really good. Although I thought they could have done a better job with the Giants, they didn't do it from pillar to post. I thought they would have been even better than that against a bad Giant offensive line. Okay, if I had my druthers, if I was coaching the team, I want more, but they're bringing it. They're bringing it. So the question is, what can you really do defensively in terms of the front? They run what they run, but I'd like to see Hargrave. When you reported that pectoral injury, it was a strain. I've talked to players over the years. It's hard to deal with that, though. Even if you've just strained it when you're stretching the pectoral muscle, it takes a while for it to get that right. And we're just seeing Geoff him to get to be where they thought he would be. He's very close. Malik Jackson, that 3-man rotation. Boy, Jackson's played well. I know he's dealing with a quad strain, but he's playing well. And Cox, he needs to take his game to the next level. He's not the same player, Geoff. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. So I've been thinking about that. And you never want to take a great player off the field, but he's just not getting the pressure that he used to get. If I would say anything, I think that would be good to see over the second half is that I would like Jim to maybe alter a little bit his rotations to feature more on third down, more of those old NASCAR packages where somebody slides inside, whether it's Brandon Graham or Vinny Curry, or even Josh Sweat has done it before. Because I think right now he's going with predominantly a 4-man rush, and those 4 men are either Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett, or Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat, right? And then inside it's usually Fletcher Cox and either Malik Jackson or Javon Hargrave, which we said was going to happen. We said once they got these 3 defensive tackles that they're not going to be playing defensive ends inside anymore on pass rush. But what I've noticed just watching games is that while there's a whole lot of talent there, I feel like when they have the 2 DTs and the 2 DEs, that they're not as dynamic. They're not as fast.
I agree.
The quarterback. I feel like they're very brawny and they do get there, but just they don't have that explosion off the ball. Because some of those guys are a little older. Usually Fletcher Cox a little older, Malik Jackson a little older. I would like to see a couple of times where you're putting Sweat inside or Brandon Graham inside, and then you on your outside you'll have Barnett and whether it's Jannard Avery or whoever, Sweat could be on the outside. I just want to see a package of 3 defensive ends on the field with 1 defensive tackle.
I agree.
I think that'll make him more explosive.
Right, and Sweat is so long. You're talking about 34.5-inch arms. I mean, I mean, teams call the Eagles. This is how much it's funny. Sweat was a guy that, if teams are being honest, they didn't think he would ever make it because of the severe knee injury he had in high school. And some teams, took him off their board because of that. They just didn't think the term was they thought he'd be a 1-contract guy. Well, the Eagles had good information. They stuck with what that Roseman and I guess would be Joe Douglas at the time in 2018. They stuck by what the medical staff told him, that they thought he could have a good career and would be able to play for a 2nd contract. And so far, that's right. He is a younger, he's a lowercase, but a healthier, believe it or not. It's hard for me to say that considering his career, but he's, knock on wood, he's been healthier than Jadeveon Clowney's been. Not as talented, obviously, but body type almost exactly alike. Long, twitchy, has great get off, has positional versatility. You could stand him up. You could play him at 3 technique. You could play him at DN. You do whatever, the only way, you could do whatever you want with him. And that's really good, man. I'll tell you what, they would not be as good without him. There's no doubt. And I like your point about playing him inside. I need to actually find out what the stats are because I know he's played inside this season. I don't know how many snaps he's had.
Yeah, it can't be too many.
Right. But, overall, I would agree with your assessment. The rotation's good. They don't need to do much because the D-line's got it going on right now. And before we move on to linebackers, because that's another entity in of its own, that's a real issue, though they are playing better. Barnett's not been this consistent in his career. He is really playing well. It's the word I've gotten. His get off is really good. Mm-hmm. We've talked about that ankle flexion. That is fantastic. This is the thing where he gets lower and he's able to bend those ankles, which is not easy to do.
Right.
Brandon Graham, who's terrific, has never played at this level. This is an elite level that he's playing.
Right.
Everything. Rush versus run, hand usage, pressures like crazy. The guy's a superstar. I mean, the way that he's playing, he's never played at this level. And I just wish from a national level, Geoff, that he would get more respect, because I'll tell you what, teams that play the Eagles, almost always when I talk to people that grade Eagles tape that were generally opponents, it's rare that Graham's name does not come up, which is it's pretty telling. That tells you how good he's playing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This might be the year. I mean, we'll have to see. It would certainly help him to get double-digit sacks for the first time.
Oh, that'll happen.
He is on pace to do that. So, and in fact, now when I talk about maybe switching up your pass rush, I'd probably leave, even though Brandon does operate really well from inside. Right now, he's just, as you mentioned, owning the edges. So is Derek Barnett. So I would actually keep those two at the end, and then when I want a little bit more speed on the field, or just a little more get off, have either Fletcher Cox, Hargrave, or Malik Jackson as one pass rusher from the inside, and then Sweat or even Vinny Curry. That's the name I forgot to mention because he was so good at it last year in December. Have one of those guys and I'm not talking about all the time. You still want your two defensive tackles in there a lot because they're good pass rushers, but every once in a while throw those guys in there and see if you can get a little bit more of a dynamic pass rush. As far as stopping the run, they've been pretty good statistically, Adam. It just seems though in certain, you go back to that Giants game where they had a lot of trouble against Wayne Gallman, especially. Yeah, and there were a couple of runs against Dallas that went under the wayside that I noticed that, and some of that was on linebackers too, but that they gave Zeke a little bit too much space there. For as bad as the Dallas offense was when they played them, Zeke was able to have a few times where he moved the chain. So I would like to see that tighten up a little bit.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. It's when we're doing off-season shows, this is what I envision, that this D-line could be dominant, and they're getting to the dominant point. They are right now the deepest D-line rotation in the National Football League. The only thing they're missing right now is a fourth D tackle. Now that could probably be, they could. My sense is they're going to wind up signing, whether it's Anthony Rush or Trayvon Hester or somebody else like that. I know they've used T.Y. McGill for the second season as when they had injuries last year, they did it. Whoever it is, or whether it's Raekwon Williams being called up again, they do need to have a fourth tackle. You're because of Malik Jackson's quadriceps injury. That, by the way, that's why they worked out Rush and Trayvon Hester.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely need a fourth tackle. That's the only thing they're missing. And Hester's got talent. The thing about Rush and Hester is they're long. I mean, they're big guys and they are long.
Right.
So particularly Rush. Rush is built like Akeem Hicks. One issue Rush has his weight. It tends to go up, and that's a problem. And that's why you got to get him in here and take a look at him, and then we'll see what happens. But other than that, Geoff, that's it. D-line's kind of easy call here. But linebacker,
before we move on though, before we hit linebacker, I want to ask you though, who would you put the spotlight here on over the second half of the season?
In terms of
like who are you expecting a little bit more from?
Oh, Joe, easy. Great question. And I mentioned it earlier. They're paying this guy a ton of money. Javon Hargrave, and I get it again, the quadriceps strain. He was down for basically 5-6 weeks in training camp. The techniques that he learned in Pittsburgh are completely different than they are here. I mean, I know Greg Cosell said Pittsburgh doesn't play the two gap like they used to, but nevertheless, the Eagles are a wide nine. Nobody else uses it really. So other than the Niners, there are really three teams that use it. But the fact of the matter is, this is new to Hargrave, and the techniques are different. But now that he's healthy, Geoff, he's a guy. The spotlight's on him. He's making a ton of money. He needs to take his game to the next level.
Yeah, I would agree. Also, if you're going to take Hargrave, which is a great one, I would also put Fletcher Cox in there. I mean, I really think that
exactly.
He's
right.
And you wonder if he doesn't, what that means for him this offseason. Because it would really be his second straight year where you were really I know last year you could at least say, well, he's coming off the surgery, although by the end of the year you were hoping for more. You didn't see it. He did make the Pro Bowl, more on reputation.
Yeah, exactly.
And this year, and I'm not trying to say he's just a guy. He's not. He's still a good player, but he's not an elite type of defensive. He still makes some elite plays from time to time, but just not as consistently as he used to. What do you think that could jeopardize his standing with the team going forward? I forget because I know they redid his contract.
No, he restructured,
right?
so he's not going anywhere. No, he'll be with the team a minimum of 2 more years. It's just what they're going to have to do. And you're kind of alluding to it. I would definitely take some occasional snaps from him.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, though, unless you use DNs inside, because of Jackson's injury and he's dealing with a lingering injury, then with Ridgeway out for the season, you don't have the healthy depth that you can bring in. Because again, depth is not about how many people you have. That's not what it means. It's totally misdiagnosed by the media and some fans. Coaches always tell me depth is about guys you feel good about. You could have 4 guys and have great depth. If they're all good and they're all healthy, you got great depth.
Right.
But the Eagles don't have that because as much as they like Raekwon Williams, he's an undrafted rookie. And T.Y. McGill, okay, but he's just not that every fourth end, Geoff, is going to be good. I get that. Ridgeway was a good 4th D tackle. He was.
Sure. He was for what you want out of a 4th D tackle. Absolutely. All right, let's move on to linebackers. First, download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code ITB for a special offer when you sign up. That's code ITB for a special offer when you sign up only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Yeah, linebacker. We got to talk about it. I mean, they've been playing better.
I mean, it's interesting, though. It's interesting. The thing is, because, it's like if you would have asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said, dude, do we have to really talk about this? I don't want to talk about this. But Edwards has come back healthy. He's doing a good job. Alex Singleton's been a good story. Nate Gary's hurt, obviously. Duke Riley is more or less their 3rd linebacker. Here's my question to you. Can they win with these guys?
I think that's the big question to be answered. After the first 5 weeks of the season, how often were we talking about how bad they were losing games because quarterbacks were going after Nate Gary, right?
Right.
But the thing is, look at the sophistication of offense that they played the first few weeks. Maybe not so much week 1 Washington where the linebackers didn't kill them as much, but Pittsburgh killed them.
The Rams killed him.
Obviously, the Rams killed him.
Yeah.
Ravens got him a little bit more too.
Yep.
Even Cincinnati, they were able to make some plays over the middle of the field with Joe Burrow and finding Tyler Boyd had a very big game. So they ran into 2 games against the Giants and the Cowboys where it didn't burn them as much. And you're right, some of that is Singleton playing better and T.J. Edwards coming back.
Yeah.
But I look at that schedule when they have to play the teams that are really going to come after them, starting with the Browns, in late November there, and then going on to Seattle and New Orleans. I never get the order correct. I forget. I know Green Bay is in there.
It's the Giants this Sunday in 6 days.
Right. Then Cleveland.
They're at the Browns. The Browns should have Nick Chubb back by then, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But though the Eagles match up well against them because the Browns are not good at wide receiver. They are deep at tight end, but this is a game where I think they come in a little bit better shape. But then here comes Murder's Row here. They're at home against Seattle. They've never beaten Russell Wilson. You know what's coming there. Then they're at Green Bay. I know they won there last year. Yeah. I do worry, Geoff, as you were talking about. I do worry about Devontae Adams, and I do worry they have some good young tight ends, Tunyon as he calls himself, and Jay Sternberger, and then they play the Saints, and then oh my God, Kyler Murray will kill them. They'll kill those linebackers.
I don't even want to think about that.
Oh,
yeah. That's my point. Is that they've really kind of flown under the radar because they haven't really played anybody who can hit them where it hurts the last 2 weeks.
Very well said. Very well.
But again, the Giants are a little bit like Ingram has played a lot better. He did have a bad drop against Washington, but nonetheless, he's played better the last 2 weeks. He's a guy who can threaten them. And the Giants have ran the ball. Yeah, and the Giants are starting to run the ball a lot better with Alfred Morris of all people and Wayne Gallman. So and then some guy I'd never even heard of is starting to get some carries for them. So Hawk or something. I forget who his last name was, but either way, I feel like that. We're going to be talking about the linebackers again in the next few weeks.
With the Giants. It was Elijah Penny, who's used to be
That's
the
what it was.
Cardinals. He's got in there. But look, the linebacker story is not finalized. It still needs to be written and will be written the rest of the season. but at least they're not embarrassing, the coaches and the team and the fans who were after him.
Right.
I know fans. Some cheered when Gary got hurt, which is not right. I mean, I understand your frustration with him. He's on IR, but listen, he'll be back there. He has value in coverage sometimes. More often than not, he doesn't. He gets beat. It's a shame.
How many games does he miss? How many games has he missed so far? One or two?
I just think one.
Okay. So he's got to miss 2 more.
Yeah, you're right. Remember, it's not weeks, it's games. Yeah, I will, as you speak, Geoff, I will double check that.
So he's definitely going to miss the Giants game on Sunday, and then probably the Browns game the following week. It is Browns, right?
I'm correct. Yeah, he was put on week 8. He was put on IR. So he's got 8, 9, 8. Wait. 9, 10, 11. Wait, week 8 they were on.
That was just their last game.
Right.
Game number 8. It's not week, so it's game for them.
8, right. It's 8. Okay, so he's out this week, and he's got to serve one more, and then he'll be active. If he's ready to go. I don't know anything about his injury, though, unfortunately.
Right. Let's just say he would be available, sooner than later. The Browns may be a bad matchup because they don't have wide receivers. I mean, not a bad matchup because of that. But they also run the ball extremely well with 2 very good running backs. And as you mentioned, they've got a couple of tight ends they like to throw to. So I do think that is the first test of the 5 for Eagles linebackers. And he won't be back. That's fine because a lot of people don't want him out there. But that means one guy goes down, and now you got Duke Riley back in. You're back into being really thin there again. So it's not ideal. I'd rather have Nate Gary active and not playing, and then be able to bring him in, put him on special teams and bring him in a sub package if I need, than just not have him all together because now you're down another linebacker. This is not a position you can afford to be thin at.
No, and they don't. They have 5 guys that they use. The joke was they only have 1 guy they really should play, which is, there were 1 or 2, but it is what it is. They have what they have. I agree with your assessment. I think teams are still going to go after these linebackers in misdirection. We're going to see, if I'm an offensive coordinator going against these guys, I'm calling more screens. I'm going to call wheel routes and Texas routes and all that stuff. I mean, that's how you beat this. That's how you beat these guys. So I would expect that to happen.
So before we move on to the secondary, I'll ask you this.
Sure.
Given the sophistication of offense that the Eagles are going to see coming up after the Giants game, maybe even after listen, Cleveland's not great, but Kevin Stefanski, I think, has done a good job with them. I mean, he's made them functional. They run the ball well. So it is somewhat of a sophisticated offense compared to, when you're facing Dallas on Ben DiNucci, right? But then you've got, like you mentioned, the Seattle, the Green Bay, New Orleans. Doesn't that make it seem to you like it's very unlikely that you're going to see Davion Taylor on the field?
Yeah, and I know fans, because he's so fast, but he's not there yet. You could use him in doses. He's a guy who needs an offseason.
Yeah.
The knock in scouting circles was his lack of instincts for the position. He's super fast. It's kind of like, although they didn't play the same position in college, it's kind of like with Nate Gary. Gary really lacks instincts for the linebacker position. Taylor's knock was, look, you and I know this because you and I were together at the combine. You and I heard from other teams, 5th round, that area. Eagles took him. We don't know every team how they graded him, but Taylor's a kid who did not play a lot of football, needed further development. But if you use him a certain way, he could probably help you with his speed. He's also, obviously on special teams, but he needs further. If you ranked like your top 5 players you need in off season, he's in your top 3.
Yeah, he really, really needs it badly, and hopefully we're saying good things about him next summer. If not, then they've got some problems there. All right, so let's move on to the secondary. We'll start with corner. Darius Slay has been fantastic. In fact, I think I want to try to highlight him on Sunday in our pregame show on how good he's been for the first 8 games of the year. For those who've seen our pregame show, we have a new telestration feature, thanks to our friends at Leverage Studios. And we had a little bit of a glitch I didn't realize until the next day on our first one, on one of the 2 telestrated videos. But we'll rectify that. But I think it's time to highlight all that Darius Slay has done for the Eagles so
Great
far,
trade.
because he's been excellent. Look, I really want to – I don't want to understate this, because the Eagles have really struggled especially with trades or free agent acquisitions going back from Namdi to whether it's Ellis Hobbs.
Corner. Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
I mean, Asante was good. I think Asante was a really good.
For what he was,
acquisition.
I mean, yeah, he was good. He was
Yeah.
good. He
But
played a
after
certain
that,
way.
It's bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the one position. They since 16, they've been one of the best teams at free agency. But if you go back to 2010, when Roseman got his promotion, if you look at corner, man, Geoff just outlined it. I mean, didn't we talk about this in like the spring? We were dying laughing at some of the guys that they've brought in here.
Oh yeah, the Jack Ikeguanu. Yeah, Jack Ikeguanu. Jack Ikeguanu.
Emil Iguanagu. I don't know
how
I'm getting this.
No, that was Emil Iguanagu. It was Jack Ikeguanu.
Right. No. But the names are Emil Iguanagu and Jack Ikeguanu.
Yes. Yeah.
I shouldn't
Emil
get that
was
right.
A nice tight end.
Yeah. He was a kid from UMass. Was Emil Iguanagu, right. But Jack Ikeguanu, yeah, you don't want to get into his story. It's not.
No. There was Trevard Lindley and gosh, the names just go. I can't even think of half of
Macho
them.
Harris. I mean,
Dominic Rogers-Cromartie was a guy they traded for.
In the Cobb trade, yeah, that was.
Yeah, so this guy has far. I mean, then there's the Nolan Carrolls and the who'd they get? The Kerry Williams and the Bradley Fletchers.
The Sconces guy. You know what? Okay. In the end, it didn't quite work out. He had his moments. Nolan Carroll, you mentioned, it's just been a nightmare. But what the interesting thing about that Slate trade is, man, the Lions asked for a lot more than they went up getting. Like the Eagles balked. The Lions asked for a certain amount of compensation. The Eagles balked, and the Eagles got, I thought, was a very good deal for a guy clearly still in his prime, playing at an elite level, really, really good. But I'll tell you though, Geoff, the one issue though you have, and it's obvious, and it's been said to me several times. Avonte Maddox, you could play him on the outside, but he's really not a natural outside corner. He's way better in nickel and also as a slot.
Yeah, you know what, Adam? I've been thinking about it a lot over the last few days. The signing of Nickel Roby-Coleman, I think, was really smart by Howie, a one-year deal. And I'm not, Nickel has had some moments where he hasn't played great, but he's been okay. But I think the thought process there, as I look back on it, is this. They shot for the moon at one cornerback spot trying to get Byron. They didn't get him. Yeah. So they made the trade to get Darius Slay. But you and I, we talked about it so much. They needed two outside corners, right? They got one, and you just saw how hard it is just to get one. It's really hard to get two. So it's easier to get a slot corner, right? And I'm sure this is part of the thinking is that we got a better shot at just moving Avonte to the outside for 1 year and playing Roby-Coleman in the slot and kind of taking whatever shots we got, because at least Maddox has played there before. And then that gives us another year to get another outside corner, because I'm sure you're right. I think Maddox will be moved into the nickel spot. I don't know if Roby-Coleman will be back next year. He's on a 1-year deal anyway. And then some form or way, they'll probably get a better outside corner for next year.
Right, and think about it. They played Roby-Coleman outside, which I never saw happening. I was shocked when they did it. I was like, really?
Yeah, out of desperation.
He hadn't been terrible on the outside, but again, he's a 5'7" and 2/10 corner. You really don't want to play him on the outside. Craig James, who was one of the better stories, really underreported and unrecovered, but we had heard that James was one of their best corners in training camp, and that's why he earned the roster spot. Unfortunately, he had a couple minor injuries, and he hasn't quite been as good as they would hope. We'll see if he gets any playing time now going forward, but they could use him on the outside. They need to, because they really have no depth on the outside, literally zero. They just – now, the other question is, because I know some people asked us, we can address it now, the Michael Jaquette kid, who had some good snaps against Dallas, and he's got good length. At this point, because they're so thin on the outside, now I know he reverted back to the practice squad. He was a call-up. Geoff, what do you think about bringing him up?
I mean, you can elevate him if you need. Maddox is back. How long is Craig James going to be out?
No, I think. Well, no, he's on the roster. I think. Yeah,
but he was hurt last week, wasn't he? I thought he was hurt.
Yeah, let me look at my notes here. Craig James.
Craig James. He was,
yeah, he didn't play. He had a hamstring injury, so he he's, he had the thigh injury, which put him on IR. He's not out a while. He shouldn't be. They would have put him on IR. But once he gets healthy, he's got to be on the rotation on the outside. As you said, they have so many slot corners, man. They don't need any more. They need somebody to play on the outside.
Yeah, no, I mean, the kid had some nice moments against Dallas, but I mean, you got to really see him, Jaquette, I'm talking about, like play against a real quarterback before you make any judgments. But certainly for depth, I mean, you should elevate him. Absolutely. Safety. So that wraps up corner, right? Let's get into safety. Jalen Mills is playing okay in his job, doing what he's supposed to do. He has some moments where he's like, hey, that's a really good, nice interception that he had a week or two ago. And then he has some moments where he's not great. I think Rodney McLeod has been far better than I thought he'd be. I got to admit it. He's been a really good player for them. And remember, we were surprised that he got a 2-year contract in the offseason?
I was shocked. We reported, what the hell did we say? We had heard at the combine that McLeod was coming back, and I was it's another one I guessed wrong. I was asked, we actually may have talked about it on our show after the season was over. I just didn't see him coming back, particularly because of I thought they wanted to get younger.
Right.
And the way he's explained to me was, yes, they do, but they want a veteran back there because they probably knew at that point if they brought Mills back, he would not be a corner. Now, I would say about Mills is he's really not playing traditional safety. He's actually a hybrid player. They rarely line him as a traditional safety. The way they look at him, it was explained to me this way. He's more of a positionless player. He's basically a defensive back. He's really not a safety. He'll cover safety, tight ends. Mm-hmm. He'll play corner. He'll play safety. He'll play jack linebacker. He'll do some of Malcolm Jenkins' role. So it's somewhat working out, but he's had some issues against the run. The reason why he's back is Jim Schwartz. And it's true, he's a really smart guy. He's been a great story of development. That's one. It's funny. We beat up their draftees in quarter. It's the one guy they really got right, and he's been a really good success story. I understand he's not fast. I get it, but there are certain things he does pretty well, and I think being a hybrid player was probably a smart move. But the one guy, though, when you talk about what we want to see in the second half, and I do think we're going to see this more, I do realize that Will Parks is available. There's no question. If the Eagles made him available, there was no trade. But remember, he missed 6 weeks, folks. So now that he's healthy, I want to see the role that I was told he was going to have as a hybrid player, as some of the Malcolm Jenkins role, so they could play big nickel with 3 safeties, Geoff. I want to see that going forward. That's one of the things. What do we want to give us your top 5 things you want to see? That's in my top 2. I want to see Parks as a hybrid player. And I know Greg Cosell loved him. I want to see some of the things that they thought they could do with him.
Yeah, he obviously the injury really said. I feel bad for just, I know that's the life in the NFL, but obviously, Jim and Howie and the brain trust they were pretty excited to get Javon Hargrave and Will Parks. And they thought that even though they may take a step back because of losing Malcolm and just having, really no linebackers, that those 2 guys would help them compensate. And both guys got hurt pretty badly and missed a significant amount of time in the training camp, and it really slowed what they can do. So you're right, putting the target on Will Parks and saying this is a big second half kind of guy. I want to see what he can do. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. So here are my guys. Okay, off of what you just said, my guys I want to see. Here are my top 5 guys you got to show me: Cox, Hargrave, Parks. My top. Those are the 3 guys. Those would be 3 guys. If they take their game to the next level, this is going to be the defense that I thought we would be getting in the spring when we had said that what we're hearing was Parks hybrid player. Hargrave was going to be sort of that younger. He's not Cox, obviously, but explosive wide 9 D tackle. It was kind of like they thought they would have this great rotation, which they finally do because everybody's healthy. Mm-hmm. They'd have some positionless players, Parks, Mills, Roby Coleman as their slot, which they would upgrade. They thought, well, not really upgrade because Maddox is probably a better player. He's way faster, by the way. Mm-hmm. But they had a lot of versatility in their defense if everybody could stay on the field. And this is kind of what I was complaining about, though, with Schwartz that we wouldn't see. So maybe the pre-snap disguise, Geoff, might be coming forward here. And I put that on the top 5 things I want to see. I know it's never going to be what we want in pre-snap disguise, but give me some. Will you give me some?
Yeah, no, I think, listen, as we finish up the secondary and the defense altogether, it's not been a good first half for the defense. I feel like people have short memories. Yeah, they played better, obviously well against Dallas, who had no quarterback, and decently against the Giants, who are at the time have been struggling. But it's hard not to forget, or I mean, you can't just dismiss, what was it, 27 points to Washington in the opener, which I get it. There were a bunch of interceptions that put them right in territory, but it doesn't mean you have to give it.
A lot of guys got hurt.
But you don't have to give up a touchdown every single time Carson throws an interception either. They were terrible in the red zone for the first 6 weeks. Right?
Look, they blew a 17-0 lead, okay? Logan Thomas scored a touchdown. Then Higbee got him for 3.
Yep.
Another tight end got him. But since, that Baltimore game, when they shut down Mark Andrews.
But they allowed 30 points.
Just
so
seeing the linebacker. I understand there were 2 or 3 runs. Listen, that Jackson does it every week. Lamar he's not throwing well as a passer at all, but it's those runs, those misdirection runs that the Eagles continue to give up. That's another thing that, okay, put it on our top 10 list of things we want to see. We need to expand it a little bit. That, and you know what? It's probably not possible because their linebackers simply aren't good enough, but they're playing better right now, Geoff. And as you said earlier, Kevin Stefanski does a great job, the head coach of the Browns. He calls their plays. It's going to come with Nick Chubb and Hunt. Their bread and butter. All they do is run the football. They try to limit Baker Mayfield's dropbacks. So it's coming. It's coming against Green Bay. Oh my God, it's going to come with Green Bay with Jones.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be sometimes, folks, hard, but their D line has got to dominate. And Schwartz has got to do a better job. He needs to do a better job than he did in the first half.
Totally agree. We keep getting asked this, and we can't predict the future. Everybody keeps asking me, who's likeliest to get fired, right? If the Eagles don't make the playoffs, and I keep saying, well, I mean, right. I don't know. Do they not make the playoffs because their offense stank or because their defense stunk? I mean, both is possible, right? I mean, I don't know. If they bottom out, I don't know why they're going to bottom out. So I can't tell you who's going to be replaced.
It won't be. All right. I don't usually talk about this stuff until it's time. But folks, the way it works in the National Football League, coaches fire themselves. What does that mean? It's where they don't get it, players fire themselves by lack of performance. It's really surprising when a player gets cut. It just isn't. I'm really surprised when coaches get fired because I know the way it works. When players are paid a lot of money and they're not performing, either you cut the player or you fire the coach. That's the way it is. It never changes. Right. 21 years I've covered this business. It's the same every year. But every once in a while I go, wait a minute, that guy's a pretty good coach. Something's wrong here. Now, when it comes to the Eagles, my one issue with Peterson has been going on now for 5 years. He does an awful job of evaluating his coaches. I think he's a good head coach. I'm a Doug defender for the most part, but there's a reason why coaches almost gone every year because he seemingly does not understand what they're doing every week or what they're not doing. And if you look at a lot of the coaches, Geoff, this is out there so we can talk about it. He didn't want to fire some of these coaches over the years. This is a fact. That tells you he clearly doesn't get it sometimes.
Yeah, no, and that's just the Doug part of it. And the defense, like I said, was not good for the first 5 games, and they got a lot of tough games in November and December. And if things go south and they give up 28 to 30 points a game, maybe it's Jim. So the point is it's impossible to answer any of these questions now without really seeing.
I'm not going to speculate. I don't. Yeah, I don't really do that stuff. But but on what you're saying, it's got to be better, okay? This team, with all the money that they're spending, and you know what their cap situation is like next year, it's abominable. It's the first time in Roseman's career they're going to have something like this. I just know the way it works. If they don't make the playoffs, it's not going to be fun in January. It's just not.
No, it will not be fun in the division. And I'll even go farther to say if they do with a losing record and get bounced in the first round, it's still not going to be very fun. But that's why they play the games. We'll get into that. Obviously,
and they've done it. And Geoff, right. What? Is there a delay here, by the way? between you and I?
We were,
Is there a
hold on.
delay on this thing? And Geoff, you know as well as I do, and our listeners know, they keep making the playoffs, which is very hard to do in the National Football League. So that's certainly a good achievement. But they still fire coaches, or they either fire them or don't renew their contracts. That's just been the MO since 17. Well, I'm sorry, 16. Excuse me. Greg Lewis was let go after 16. He's with the Chiefs.
Right.
And look, we know that things have happened. Peterson's missed, and whoever has helped Doug with the coaches, they've missed on the evaluations. This is not mutually exclusive to the Eagles. This happens with a lot of teams, particularly ones that are successful. You're never satisfied, and that it's actually a good thing. But I do think that Peterson's got to do a better job of evaluating his coaches, understand what they need to do better. That Doug needs to understand as part of coaching. You're just not there to call plays, manage your players. You got to manage your coaches. And Andy Reid was a master at it and still is. That's why he's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Andy was also very good at winning in November and December, something that Doug has shown that he's been good at, and he'll really need to be on it. He and Jim and the whole brain trust this November and December to get this team into the playoffs with a good record and then actually do something. And obviously we will see what happens, but we already know we don't have to wait for winter because autumn is in the air, Adam, and Manscaped's here to ensure that you don't carve your pumpkins when you're grooving. And by pumpkins, I think you all know what we mean. In fact, Manscaped's on a mission to change the way you approach caring for your balls. And great news, they just released their products in the UK, Canada, and Australia. So what a wonderful thing if you're living overseas and still listening to Inside the Birds. You can still get your Manscaped material. And let's not forget what they've got. The Lawnmower 3.0 with the ceramic blade and advanced skin-safe technology, which helps reduce those grooming accidents. They got the new Weed Whacker Air and nose hair trimmer, which also uses the same skin-safe technology when you're trimming those delicate nose hairs of yours. We've talked about the Crop Care Kit, which has the Crop Preserver ball deodorant. And, of course, the Crop Cleanser body wash, a full body wash that you can also use on your hair. And the Crop Mop ball wipes, because you never know when an opportunity strikes, so you got to be prepared. And you don't want to stink when you're sitting around that Thanksgiving dinner table. And if you suffer from stankfoot or you're standing on your feet all day, then, man, Adam and I have got something for you. It's the Foot Duster foot deodorant. It's actually a free gift involved with Manscaped products. So it's got a cooling tea tree oil that offers a pleasant experience for the stankiest feet and allows you to take your shoes off in confidence. I am that kind of guy who goes and sits around and takes my shoes off and watches the football on Thanksgiving. So this is a perfect
So do I.
product.
Excellent
product.
It's funny because my wife does not let me wear shoes in the house because of she doesn't want, because we could be bringing in anything, you never know where you're walking, what's going to be on your feet. So yeah, man, I got to check into this thing.
Yeah. Now I have this. This is also great. The Manscaped Refined Cologne. It's a cost-effective way to smell clean and fresh for any date that you've got. And then the Crop Cleanser hair and body wash was designed with aloe vera and sea salt to leave your skin clean, fresh, moisturized, and reinvigorated. And of course, all these products are vegan, cruelty-free, dye-free, sulfate-free, and paraben-free. So you know that your manhood's in good hands. So get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the promo code ITB. That's 20% off free shipping at manscaped.com with the promo code ITB. Make your balls a priority this fall. All right, we don't have a Manscaped man of the game from an Eagles game this week, Adam, but there was, as we mentioned, a lot of great NFL games this weekend, even though the Eagles weren't on, and some great individual performances. So who would be your NFL Manscaped man of the week this week?
Yeah, this past week it would be Josh Allen, who crushed me in fantasy. Oh, my God.
You took mine.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
I was going to say Allen, too. Go ahead.
Well, there are plenty of them, man. Typically, there were 78 points in that game. And the thing that's frustrating about fantasy is, like, I have Allen in another league, and I went up against him, and I had Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson turned it over 4 times,
right?
Which was painful. But, Josh Allen was incredible, and great job by the Bill coaches and Brian Dable specifically, the OC, who's done an incredible job with what people said could not happen. Yes, folks, you can improve accuracy. That's a fallacy. Now, I understand it's not easy to do. More often than not, it doesn't happen. But Josh Allen's accuracy is way up, way up. It'll never be picture perfect. He's not going to keep this level of accuracy up, but I'll tell you what, it's a credit to him, and it's a credit to the coaching staff, and a credit to his hard work. And great job by the Bills because this kid has made one of the biggest jumps I've seen, Geoff, in recent years at quarterback.
Yeah, sure helps getting Stephon Diggs to help increase your
And that
accuracy,
helped.
right?
And you know what the Bills told me? Diggs and Allen worked together in the offseason before the shutdown. Excuse me. And in training camp, they worked big time on his downfield accuracy, which has been amazing this season, which had not been very good at all last year or the year before.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a great Manscaped Man of the Week. And I had a backup one just in case because I thought you might take Josh Allen as well. My guy has been a monster for 2 straight weeks now. He is Dalvin Cook. The man had 206 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns against the Vikings, along with 46 receiving yards. And that's coming off the what do you have, 4 or 5 touchdowns the week before against Green Bay? He was
4.
4, right. So he's been a touchdown monster for the last 2 weeks. And Minnesota's won their last 2 games. They're kind of back in it for them, at least, because
Wild
of
card.
him.
Yeah.
So yours is Josh Allen. My Manscaped Man of the Week is Dalvin Cook. All right. We just wrapped up our defense. So that was our 2-part podcast series. If you're listening Monday night when this drops, or Monday morning when this drops, we will be on The Fanatic from 6 to 8 p.m. 97.5 The Fanatic doing Inside the Birds radio. So give us a call if you want to talk a little birds. I look forward to doing that. And later this week, our Wednesday AM podcast will come out, and I think that's the one we're going to take some it's going to be an Ask ITB type of pod, I believe, right?
A ton of them. Yeah, we've got some great questions. In fact, there are a couple that we can actually make segments off of because there are a lot of deep questions, philosophical questions we love. It's some of the stuff we discussed before, some stuff we have not, and it's great. It really helps us kind of think about stuff we probably have not discussed in a while. So it's great. We appreciate it, and we'll do that. And then we'll have our preview on Friday of the Eagles-Giants game, which, by the way, should be pretty competitive. 2 quarterbacks, ironically, Geoff, they're struggling with the same thing, accuracy and decision-making. It's really not what I thought would happen with Wentz, but it is what it is. We all know it. And we'll see if we can get a turnaround in the second half.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check out his work on YouTube called Sports Talk with Broads. Make sure you check him out on Twitter at Broads81. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.